So so one of the questions, kind of I know you're sharing that, yes, life will, there haven't been any pandemics. This is just one out of a spectrum of things that happen. Specifically, because a lot of the folks here are from the Ayurveda community, they're counselors, practitioners, and forever students. Where is your perspective on what, number one, what as educators or counselors or just enthusiasts of Ayurveda or any ancient wisdoms, what can we do? What should we be thinking about and acting on in the moment now, as so much is changing in the world? And number two, what do you feel, is there's an opportunity for Ayurveda to really lift itself? Because it's intense where you don't see, it's kind of crickets out there when it comes to even Chinese medicine or Ayurveda. I mean, I saw one report on Chinese medicine, and of course, this is new for everybody. So everyone is still analyzing and studying and putting things out. But what are your thoughts on that?
So, see, Ayurveda is a multidimensional science, and you have been a student. A lot of people here are studying Ayurveda from many streams. So there is not one way of approaching a situation. It's not like modern medicine that you have certain protocols. You do a blood report, you check for symptoms, then you release the first line of treatment, the second line of treatment, and so on. I don't want to offend anyone because this is not my intention. I'll just speak for myself and how I approach it. I personally feel that a lot of time in today's world, not only from the overseas students who are learning Ayurveda their own way, but even back home in the country, people are trying to race with modern medicine. They are trying to see or practice Ayurveda medicine on the lines of modern medicine. It's like, if you want something which is antiviral, you'll search a herb which is antiviral. If there is something which works on a particular molecule, maybe a protein like amylase or something, then you will find studies of herbs which have been worked on it. And this is not how I think Ayurveda has to be applied. One has to understand that Ayurveda is not a book. It comes from Vedic principles of cosmology, Shushti. When we say about Shushti, it comes to cosmos. It doesn't only refer to Earth. And we have to understand that there are fundamental basic principles, like there are only 6 days. So it doesn't matter, whatever in the world you use, there are only 6 days, 6 fundamental tests. And if you can balance those tests in day-to-day life, you'll be healthy. You can balance those tests by anything, whatever you use. If you think on gunas, there are only 20 gunas. Basically, only there are 10 gunas, but they're opposite. If you can balance those gunas in your life, in day-to-day life, you will be good. There are only 3 doshas. If you can understand their intricacies, if you are that good enough to do that, and you can balance that in day-to-day life, you will be good. Because the moment you're born, you're dying. It is an illusion, you're growing and falling down. So day by day, you're deprecating. But in that chaos also, there is a stillness. That where you are going with a particular motion is health. Anything that causes any disruption in that health leads to disease. It could be a pandemic, it could be a mental, emotional, physical, any trauma. And for most parts, Vedic sciences are pretty, I've used the word algorithm most of the time, they're pretty mathematical. They only build on it in layers and layers for people like us to understand. And if I say some Sanskrit, but the person who has never learned Sanskrit, he will not understand it. But if I give some kind of a pseudo translation for it, at least they'll make some sense of it. It might not be an exact translation. But if they adhere to the translation as being absolute, then they are not growing. So I personally feel Ayurveda is a timeless science. A lot of time people say that, okay, we have to go back to nature, we have to find, and that is not required. I give this example to a lot of students who interact with me, that there are only 3 doshas. So even if you take Tylenol, it acts on those doshas. You take Tulsi, it acts on the doshas. It is not going to be like you're taking a chemical that is not going to act on Ayurveda principles. But we believe so. We make these distinctions between vegetarian, non-vegetarian. We make this distinction between chemical, herbal, and we lose the plot there. When Agni is considered as the only defining part in Ayurveda, you have to understand that whatever you put inside at micro and macro level, if it is digested in a form which is identifiable by the body as nutrition, it will be separate for separate people. A mother can have 3 children and she can cook the same food with love, but one might like it, one might not like it. So that individualism is there. But as long as it is stabilizing the system, it is working for him. So we have to understand these dynamics in future things which are coming. You cannot neglect technology. You cannot neglect that as population grows, GMO crops will be there, because you cannot, sustain or feed a population on organic farming. If somebody wants to do it, so be it, but it's not going to happen. Eventually, as population grows, we are going to overwhelm animals, so that thing is going to die. If you're going to cut out forests, you have to cut out biodiversity. Pandemics are going to rise. And it is not something which you are doing. It is just how the world is flowing itself in the future. Artificial intelligence, neural stuff, as I talked about 5G, these are the norms. So you cannot keep on barging that we don't want this. You have to adapt to it. There is a lot of heavy chemicals in nature. Now that 21 days, 30 days, everything is shut down. Nothing is there. But eventually it is going to start up, because economy has to grow. So it is going to start up with much fanfare. So each one has to use this principle of Ayurveda in a very algorithmic way of, pertaining themselves, of aligning themselves with nature. How many of us go out in the sun? How many of us go out in the moon? Each one, when it is cold, we have got curtailed environments in our houses. You have a heater. When it is getting very hot, you have got coolers. People can sit in an AC car, but the moment they go outside, they feel very bad. So small things. But this is where your thyroid gland, this is where your immune system is showing up. You're already in an inflamed stage. And Ayurveda tells you that you have to always keep yourself in a very static and stable stage. So every cell in your body, where the concept of prana is there, every cell in your body is functioning in a very optimal level. And if you can at least maintain 70% of it, you're going to be free of diseases. Even if you get diseases, you'll get out of it pretty quickly. And if you pass on these protocols, what we call as dincharya, which is not a set of vegetarian, cultural or cultic thing. It is a very algorithmic thing. It doesn't matter from which school of thought you come from. The rules are the same. We apply it as per our beliefs. So if we leave those things and just work on these principles, I think there is a lot Ayurveda people can offer to the world. And it is a age-old science. It has survived time. It will still survive time. But we have to keep faith in understanding these algorithms and understand. And I'll give you just example before I close this statement. There are certain things in Ayurveda like metals, gold, silver, whose bhasmas were used earlier than calcinations. Nowadays, you see modern medicine, they're experimenting with nano gold medicine, nano silver medicine for autoimmune disorders. So it is the same thing. There is a concept of sound. There's a concept of waves, mantras, which people give to enhance your immune system. Now, scientists are developing machines which can read your brain waves and create sound, create pictures. So it is the same algorithmic concept. Maybe it was not put in that way when it was passed on. We have to read between the lines, and I feel as Ayurveda becomes global, more and more literature becomes available to students. They should understand these patterns and try and apply it in their normal life. They should try and find that, if they can know the rasas, they can know the gunas. Even spices can be as potent as herbs. You don't have to look to India and Indian forest to import everything. You don't have to look for classical formulations and import everything. You have to just use your brain, use the fundamentals, and use what is around you to make your life worth living. And that would solve a lot of problems.
So Dr. Sumit, you said, just use your brain, right? That's a basic, simple thing that we, especially as folks who guide folks in different ways. So use your brain. You don't need these classical formulas, etc. How does one use their brain? Because there's such as you talk to so many students around the world, there's so much unconditioning. As you always say, I've got to keep unlearning. So how does one do that? Because most people, it's all about books. We have 20 million online courses that people take, or people feel the need to do that. And I'm not saying it's not right. It's not a right or wrong thing. But how does one use their brain more when you're in this world? Even in Ayurveda world, there's 20 million courses and yada, yada.
See, whatever courses are there, I'll give you a very simple example around the world. Let us say the fundamental course is BAMS, Bachelor of Ayurveda Medicine and Surgery, which comes in India. Now, a lot of people have to understand that we practice medicine in India for job as a professional. So that syllabus was created for us to get a license to practice, what we call as license to kill in medicine. It doesn't entail the complete applicable knowledge of Ayurveda. Now, if you're going to make that as a standard for people around the world, people are going to get overwhelmed, because then they will have the prerequisites of learning Sanskrit, they'll have the prerequisite of understanding, and that cannot be. When we talk, the basic thing in Vedic sciences is Shushti. When you say cosmos, everything comes. Saturn comes, Mars comes, everything comes. I'm just saying tomorrow you're going to colonize Mars. How are you going to apply Ayurveda there? I'll say I can apply it because I'm thinking on very algorithmic levels. It is a very reality. Tomorrow you will colonize different planets. How are you going to apply Ayurveda there? If you know the rasas, if you know what the 6 rasas is, you know what the soil of Mars is. You know what the air of Mars is composed of in 5 elements. So see, that is where I'm saying that unless and until you start applying in your day-to-day life, accept the reality around you, that you're staying in concrete jungles, you're staying in polluted environments, you have to make most of what is going around you. You cannot keep on changing the world and telling them of a la-la land which was 20 years, 40 years, 100 years back. It is not going to happen. If man did not go out of the cave, he would not have created a modern city. He was very safe in a cave. And same thing happens with Ayurveda education business. People talk about all these herbs, but 90% of people have never gone to the forest and even understood what those herbs are. I can tell you there are different chemotypes. If I tell you one herb, it is different in 7,000 feet, 4,000 feet, 2,000 feet. Very simple example I'll give you of a herb called as cannabis. Cannabis can grows in Mumbai, cannabis grows in Rajasthan, cannabis grows in Punjab, cannabis grows in California, cannabis grows in Manali, cannabis grows in Tosh Valley. So why do you take the Malana cream? Why do you want the cannabis from Himachal Pradesh? Why can't you take it from Mumbai? See, chemotype is different. Virya is different. You have to understand these things. Unless and until you have a separate approach for these things, if your basic formulation is going to go wrong, you are not going to get the target result. Concepts are fine. I can cure anyone of cancer and I can tell them any concept. I understood their doshas. Anything I can say. No one is going to deny me because I've given a result. But that doesn't add to your learning. So whatever dincharya you are prescribing to your patients, you do it yourself. Get up on particular time, eat on particular time, sleep on particular time. Try and go without salt and sugar for whatever dincharyas you're telling your patients. See what changes it makes in your system. If you start doing it, you will get a very different awareness because it changes your hormones. It is not a very linear thing. You're changing from within. It's like when you do deep, slow breathing for 5 minutes, you feel like you're gone in a trance. It is a very quantifiable experience. It is not something that you can talk to someone and say, do that. If the same exercise you do in middle of the day, you're not going to find anything. When you are heartbroken, you like a particular song. That same song, if you're not heartbroken, you will never listen to it. So these are very quantifiable experiences. Vedic sciences have made very algorithmic notifications of it. But it is that because the divide between the learned and the non-learned was so big, they started simplifying it into different texts. So Vedas came, then Shakhas came, dissensions came. To study those Shakhas, Pratishakhas came. Then again, simple different school of thoughts came, and they developed into their own school of thought. But that doesn't take away the algorithms. If you, like for example, if I am a vegetarian, let's say I belong to a community which has never eaten meat. If a person from Scandinavia comes and tells me a problem, what is the first thing I'm going to tell him? Stop meat. But does everybody in Scandinavia is getting a problem eating meat? So here lies the problem. When you start with some preconceived notions about spirituality, sattvic or something, you lose the etymological inferences of those words, and there that affects your practice. You want to do everything. I've come across Ayurveda people who are giving herbs, who are giving dincharya, who are also giving supplements, who are also giving magnesium, selenium, a lot of things. I'm not saying it is wrong. If it is happening with a particular thought process, you can use anything to influence the doshas. You can use anything to influence the rasas, the virya, the vipaka. But are you doing it on that sense? Or are you just using it because they are non-chemical? They are herbal. And tulsi will also throw out your fever, paracetamol, Tylenol, whatever will also throw out your fever. What is the need of the hour? do you want it to use instantaneous in the long run? I give you an example in Charak, where you got this end stage of ascites, you get water in your stomach. So Charak says for that reason, use snake poison, mix it with rice and eat it. You will get drastic purgations and ascites will go down. Now, are you going to use it as a first line of defense? No. But when time comes, you're going to use something which is out of the box, as long as it is working with a particular principle of Ayurveda. If only somebody picks up that and start using chemicals because it is mentioned in Ayurveda, then I don't think so it is going to go in a long run. And that is how I think Shastras, or this is how the books have to be taught with very applicable form. Earlier time, these books were meant for gurukuls. People used to go into ashrams, they used to go into the forest. Every village had got 3 forests. There was a Gram Rai, where the village forest was there, people used to pick vegetables. There was a Van Rai, where the forest animals used to stay. And there was a Dev Rai, where gods used to, nobody used to enter it. So it maintained biodiversity. Today we don't have that. We have national parks, we have national forest. Biodiversity is going out of the way. People use certain times to collect roots. Studies have been done that I have done myself studies, HPLC studies, if you collect roots at certain times, the vascularity is more, the juices are more. You dry a herb under the shade, you dry the herb under the sun. Now you're taking herbs from local markets. I dry the herb under the shade. It is like dawn and dusk. The juices get soaked in within, so you get more potency. The same herb, if you dry in sun, all the juices are evaporated. So you're only going to get, fiber. So, these are small grassroots level things Ayurveda doctors should think. But people just give remedies. People just do dosha analysis. And there lies the problem that the quantification doesn't come. And therefore, when this kind of challenging situations comes, we are challenged. We can't give a very reasonable response to anyone who comes to you for treatment.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I'm a pharmacist, so I have, and I've done my pharmacy from back first, my undergrad from India. So we had a lot of pharmacognosy. We had an excellent teacher who taught us herbal medication. Obviously, once you come, to the Western medications, you kind of lose touch with that. I see now I'm a community pharmacist, so I practice with a chain pharmacy. And I see that now people are coming more and more asking about, medications, especially for mental health. So what do you think, how can Ayurveda play a role in mental health?
See, again, I come to the point is that Ayurvedic science is a lot of time. I'm not saying that you're thinking that way. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But I get these questions with respect to a lot of different streams of medicine, psychiatry, mental health, or this kind of things which we're seeing in children right now, which were maybe you're from India, so in our times, ADHD, autism was not there. Nowadays, we come here. If your children is down, they call you for counseling. In our times, people used to teach you to just, spank the child and say, okay, fine, we can get on with it. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, it is a reality. And the issue comes from grassroots level. It's not about a medicine. I'll tell you a very simple thing. You bring food, which is organic food, absolutely great. But you cook it in an aluminium. What is happening? Aluminium is going into the system. It is clogging the brain. It is clogging the hormones. It is creating changes in the mind. So, Ayurveda is not about herbs. It starts with a very algorithmic level of when you get up, what kind of cooking you're doing. Simple thing, when in my teachings, I always say put salt before cooking food. If you put salt while cooking and after cooking, it changes the dynamics of the system. A lot of time you use these Lay's chips and you say, okay, this contains monosodium glutamate. MSG is not going to do anything. It is packed in aluminium foils. You're taking certain packed food and microwaving it. Mm-hmm. You're using cheap stainless steel, which has got nickel cadmium toxicity. You're not using expensive utensils. You're not cooking on low fire. So these things are cumulative poisons. These things, they do not come together. The moment your child is born, if you're not doing these small changes in your cooking methodologies, then this causes toxicity. So this is where first Ayurveda comes. First it says ahar. Ahar is diet. Diet doesn't mean vegetarian diet. It means algorithmic, logical diet of how we are preparing it. Second comes vihar. When you are giving the food, so if you give the right food even at the wrong time, it is going to cause toxins. Like if you eat, curd anytime during the night, it is going to cause you sinus issues. But the same curd in the night, if you eat with onions, it is going to cure constipation. So see, these are small variations which Ayurveda has told you. The mango, if you eat, is going to increase your blood sugar. If the same mango leaves which have fallen down, make this concoction, it is going to reduce your blood sugar. So these things we do not take into issues because we say, okay, show me random studies, show me placebo data. Pharmacognosy, what you are doing for is fine because you are giving a very target responses of what exactly, how it is absorbed, how it is eradicated, and in which organ it is showing the response, whether to receptors, whether to glandular functions, whether to inflammatory functions, cytokines, everything. Ayurvedic medicines work through the brain patterns, so neuronal patterns. It starts changing how exactly your system is interacting with these bioreceptors from the periphery to the organs. A lot of time when you do Ayurveda diet called Langan, you lose visceral fat. When you lose visceral fat over the liver and all, your organs start functioning in a very different way. When you do a diet, you lose peripheral fat. It is not helping you anywhere. See, this is simple. When you see, okay, this guy has lost fat, this guy has lost fat. It's different. And similarly, when you go to psychiatry or this kind of issues, I think if you do the grassroots level well, I treat a lot of people, therefore I'm telling you from my example. I give the same diet to everyone. There is no medication given. And people change. Why? Because they are removing this toxicity from their body. They are removing aluminium. They are using the right kind of food. They are putting salt at the right time. They are reducing sugars. Sugars doesn't mean only that sweet sugar. Sugar is there in each and every food what you eat. How exactly you are helping your liver to digest it. How much less inflammation you are creating into your system. And once you start thinking on those patterns of Ayurveda, these diseases go on themselves. But you just say, okay, give me something. I'll say, okay, there is Shirodhara, there is Brahmi, there is Shankapushpi. This is not going to help. You give Chavanprash, everything they give Chavanprash. It is not going to help. And here, I think so. This kind of concepts should be taken. You don't require to know any medications. We just know this basically dietary guidelines. I think so. It can help a lot of young people in psychiatry and a lot of things. Of course, there are certain mental disorders which have got structural deformities like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. You understand there is structural deformity in the brain. There, of course, along with the diet, you have to give some specific medications. That is a very expert field. And maybe I won't comment on this on an open forum on it. For that, you have to consult an Ayurveda physician. But most of these disorders like autism, ADHD, anger management, all these things are come because of heavy metal toxicity, which are leaching into their system, not only from the utensils you are using, but from the surroundings, how you are preparing your food. And if that can be curtailed at a very young age, it will not only help them, but if there are girls or boys, it will help them with puberty and issues when they face the modalities of life.
Okay. So you think as an adult, you think those things can't be helped? Like I have patients who come, asking for whether it is for stress, whether it is for whatever they're handling with their children. You think once they're older, it won't help?
No, it will definitely help. There are modalities to it because the more you go in life, mind becomes very customized to certain things. It is very difficult to let go. A child's brain can be molded. People.
Okay.
So
I see.
If you can, like patients come to me, I tell them you have to just be on rice water for 15 days. It's like leave everything. But what we do, because you have a client, you don't want to, offend him. If he says I drink only like 1 cup of tea, you'll say, okay, it is fine, drink half. But even that half cup might cause inflammation. The fault lies in us as a practitioners because we are customizing things. If you can understand the ethos of Ayurveda, that if you can give a diet, give it time, you can say, do it for 20, 21 days, 40 days, just follow this to the core. If you can convince him, half of your battle is done. Once he starts finding the results, you don't have to search for herbs. The more herbs you put to control symptoms, it is not going to help, because Ayurveda says ekam aushadam, means you just put one thing and everything has to get cured. And I know we are searching, we are giving remedies. Okay, stress, take ashwagandha, do yoga. We have constipation, take Triphala. And that is issue because it lies at a very micro level. If you are carrying inflammation into the system, even if I see you are from India, people drink tea in the morning. They don't drink anything in the entirety, but in the evening they'll drink tea. If you cause inflammation, you are never going to get all right. And that is where I think Ayurveda people should go. We have this Chatushpad, we have this dietary restriction. First thing it is given. Convince the patient that do what you feel is right, your dietary management. If he's not doing, do not take the patient. If you do not take, and in today's world, it should be more implied because people are coming researching on their disorders from all corners. So you being an Ayurveda doctor or Ayurveda practitioners, people will come to you after they have researched everything. So they know more about their medications than you. So you have to first convince them, you should know the synergisms, and you should also help them, giving them a perspective. But you just play along. You say, okay, fine, that chemical is fine. You take lithium, but along with it, you also take Brahmi, do some, it is not going to help. It will give a feel-good factor, but eventually it is not going to help in the long run.
Do you have any books which you recommend, or do you have some place where somebody, like, I feel I am a pharmacist, so I feel I can like learn, try to like learn something more. I'm not a practicing Ayurveda or Ayurvedic practitioner, but I do try to learn as much. So I feel it'll help if I can know some good website, or if there's somewhere where you are conducting some classes.
See, I get asked this question a lot, but there are no books. All the books will tell you the same thing. Again, I say learn to read between the lines, and trust your perspective of what you have learned. A lot of time when we use the word Ras, Virya, Vipak, a lot of people go in a very esoteric value towards it. So you have to understand that, Virya is said, Vipak is there, it is talking something about digestion. You know how human digestion happens. What exactly? Because see, they are algorithmic science. When we say Madhur Ras, Madhur sweet means anything that gives you that response wherever you go in the world. Tomorrow you might go to you might go to Pluto and you eat something. You are still going to experience it only through this Ras, Virya, Vipak. There are only 6 days. So once you start understanding this is algorithmic, you don't categorize. Our problem is happening because we are thinking in a very modern sense. Modern medicine categorizes everything. First hypertension was a symptom. Now it is a disease. Why? Because it facilitates. You're going deeper into something. But Ayurveda says, no, tomorrow if you have a stomach ache, after 2 years, you can get hypertension. Now you'll say, how come is it possible? It is possible. Time doesn't permit, but I can tell you. You can look at a child's eye and you can just tell him in 10 years what diseases he's going to get. When he's going to die, even that also you can see, if you can know the brain. That much how deep Ayurveda is. And everything is written. It is not that it is not written. But what happens when you do only translations? It becomes difficult. And that is where, I'm not saying that you have to go somewhere and do meditate. But if you just read between the lines, trust the knowledge what you have got. Like you're a pharmacist. So you know what happens into the system. If you just use it as a layer and just use this knowledge as fundamental concepts, you will get the gist. But if you keep on reading books, I don't think so. Every book tells the same things. And it is very difficult to put these concepts in words. Even if I have to write a book, which I'm pathetic at, but yet if I do it, then I won't be able to put more concepts in this sense. I can give a little bit of overview, but people have to understand, because then it comes at, I have made some videos on Vedas, I've made some videos. So I felt I have explained these concepts in a much easier way, but some people still find it difficult to comprehend. So you have to keep on looking, keep on revisiting these things. And I always feel if you start applying with a little bit of courage, you take like 2 patients whom you say, I'm not going to compromise, come what may. You will start getting the gist. You have to simplify things. If you just find solutions in herbs and medicine, there is no magical herb. I have been traveling the Himalayas for 20 years. I have not come across any magical herb which I can hold, I can say, I can anti-age. It is not going to happen. Of course, it happens if I couple it with a proper discipline and diet. But that nobody is able to put in the effort. Think systemic, think global, and you will find Vedic concepts applicable not only to health, but economy, science, physiology, spirituality, everything. Everything is given there. You just need to apply it in the right sense.
You said very nicely. I really like that line when you're saying that you have to read between the lines, because sometimes you feel that you're reading something, it's making complete sense to you, and you get so excited you want to share it with somebody, somebody else who you think is also like on the same level. Somehow you're not able to explain what you get. You can apply that in your own way, in your own life. You can apply that on your own diet, but there's a way that you can't sometimes explain it to the other person why you think it will work. So it makes sense when you say that it's reading, you've got to read between the lines and then trust it. Thank you.
You may have answered some of this already, but in general, when you think of modern medicine, the cause and effect relationship seems very obvious. You have a headache, you take Tylenol and it seems to go away. but with the Ayurveda, it's more subtle. You know, how do you understand this?
No, what's the question? Come once again.
You know, the relationship. You know, when you
Yeah.
the cause and effect relationship. You know,
Oh,
in
got it,
modern
got it.
medicine,
Yeah.
it seems more clear, while in Ayurveda, it's more subtle. You know.
See, even with Ayurveda, you can get very instantaneous results, but that is not the quotient. The quotient is where your life is stagnated. You know, for me, if you ask me on personal level, I don't want to be stagnated on life, going to doctors or medications again and again. Of course, you know, I am up the mountain and I've got a sprain. I'm going to pop in a painkiller. I'm not going to go looking for cannabis just because it is Ayurvedic. I have it. I know the result it is going to get to me. It is not causing me any stagnation in life. Because there is no person in the world who has just taken herbal medicine, herbal things and still, you know, not died. Everybody dies. Everybody goes. It depends upon how you want to utilize the body, for what experiences you, and that is the aim of Ayurveda. It says swasthya. You have to preserve the health. You have to preserve, you have to utilize your body. You cannot preserve your body. And that is what the quotient is, that there are underlying causes for everything. You know, sometimes if you read certain Ayurveda texts, they say there are, you know, back life causes for certain things, karmic causes for certain things. Now, all these things are fine, you know, because people want to make a sense of why exactly they're going through a suffering. You know, why completely normal people get children who are blind. Why two blind people get completely normal children? Why some child who has got no disease falls in a swimming pool and dies? So, you know, these are certain things which Ayurveda tries to explain, that nothing happens without a cause and there is no effect without a cause. If the causes cannot be traced to this life, it has to trace to some other life. But that all is fine. The same thing I'll tell in answering your question. You get a headache, you're taking a medication, it is gone. But if it is coming again and again, how many medications you are going to take? It doesn't matter you're taking Tylenol or you're taking any Ayurveda remedy. The quotient, it is coming again and again and you're getting stagnated with it. Because once that headache comes, you're unable to concentrate. You're unable to do anything with your life. Here, the tenets of Ayurveda come, it tells you there is an underlying cause. It could be acidity. It could be reflux. It could be that whatever food you have been eating from a period of time is causing this systemic acid, which is giving you these headaches. It could be a migraine pain. It could be vertigo. It could be low eyesight. It could be graying of hair. It could be loss of taste. It could be polydipsia where you don't feel thirsty all the time. Or it could be anything else. So do you need to understand this underlying cause and prepare yourself for the future? If your quotient is only to reduce these headaches, fine, you can use any medication you like. Just because you're using an herbal medication, you can say, okay, fine, you know, I'm using herbal, so it is not causing me any issue. But is your problem getting solved? And therefore, I see that Ayurveda addresses that, you know, if you're suffering from something again and again, the symptoms can vary. Today, you might have a headache. Tomorrow, you can just have a psoriatic rash. But it has come from the same systemic acid which have been creating over a period of time, maybe from birth, maybe after puberty, maybe from the 8 years of your life, you just change your diet to erratic habits. And those things have to be understood. For that, one has to understand what stagnation means and how much they respect life and how much they want to carry on with life.
Also had another question. Is Dinacharya the same for everyone? I mean, does it based on your health condition? Does it vary or?
See, it depends upon the doctor. You know, in Ayurveda, there are 8 types of, if I go very little bit technical here, there are 8 types of diagnostic methods. You know, some see the pulse, some see the eyes, some see the tongue, some see urine, some see stool, some just touch your system, some just ask you questions and they know. And this again divides into 3 types, you know, by darshan. Darshan means, you know, you're seeing. So you can see urine, you can see figures, you can see eyes. Sparshan means you can touch. And prashna means when you're asking questions. So depending upon how that doctor is identifying your system, he can prescribe individualized diet. So for me, in my practice, I prescribe the same diet for everyone. And I can say, okay, this is required for you, it will get you all right. Like you know a little bit about me, so you know I just put on milk on everyone. Some Ayurveda doctor might say milk is bad. You know, milk will cause you issues, milk will cause you phlegm. And he might be right, even I might be right. So we cannot have singular protocol for everyone. It depends upon how a doctor in that time frame is analyzing your system. And therefore, I think this question has got no definitive answers. It differs from doctor to doctor, practitioner to practitioner. If I have complete control over my patients, I can just keep him on water and cure him. If I do not have complete control over my patient and I am allowing him certain things, like, okay, you can have 1 cup of tea, you can have 1 cup of food, what you like, then I have to put in more variations to get that exact control. And this is where the subtleties lies from a technical point of view. We cannot generalize it from doctor to doctor. If your doctor has told you hundreds of things to do and you come across someone and he says nothing to do, just take this, that doesn't make that person a brilliant doctor. It depends upon where you're conscious and where your long-term vision lies. If you're getting the effect by doing these things, stick to it. If you're not getting, if your stagnation on an entire bodily level is not ending, you change it. So whole concept, what we say, lies within your introspection of whether you're moving in the right direction. And that's how we'll find doctors, and you'll see there are a lot of local healers, doctors. It is not just DMS. We have studied a degree which gives us license to cure. But there are brilliant doctors in India who are just practicing medicine from traditions. They do not have the degree. Their diagnostic method is different. And you being from India must have known about it. So we cannot, the means do not matter. What you get in the end matters.
Isn't this COVID-19 just another disease with remarkable PR? I mean, many people get sick and die from influenza every year. Not that I'm being Trump now. Is it really completely different? In Ayurveda, we do have measures to boost immunity and combat disease. Is it really something we should fear from?
See, the quotient is whether it is a PR, whether it is an engineered virus, whether it is just put in so that the economy can change. All things I can understand are valid arguments, and I won't deny from it. But on a personal level, how it is affecting? See, the quotient of this virus is that the incubation period is pretty silent. Even if I have the virus right now, I might not know it for 7-8 days. Would you take the risk of sleeping with your children? Would you take the risk of going to your dad and shaking hands with him? That is the quotient which is causing a lot of panic. I don't think so anybody worries about the symptoms. If somebody, we have been SARS, Ebola, Spanish flu, epidemics have come. Cholera was a killer disease in India, before it came to sanitation. And people never feared it. Tuberculosis still is the most violent disease. COVID is nothing in front of it. People don't fear it because you know what you're getting. It's the most contagious disease. If you come into a tuberculosis, it's the most contagious disease when you come through, and it is not treatable by any drugs. We have MDR, TB, and I know I treat a lot of patients, so I know about it. So I'm not saying that it is not something to worry about. It is about your own consciousness of whether you might be safe, but are you keeping your loved ones safe? And therefore, I think people should look at it from a different point of view. As far as immunity goes, I always say that immunity is not a pathological concept which can be understood. You develop immunity as you go through. I always talk in certain lectures about CRISPR babies. People are making gene-edited babies where they are cutting out genes of certain diseases, but it cannot ensure of which diseases are going to come in the future. Like if there were certain gene-edited babies before COVID came, no one knew that COVID will attack them. So tomorrow you have a gene-edited baby, you can add one more disease to the list. What I'm worried about, the way people are reacting to it and the way people are getting panicked. So people should understand that diseases come, diseases go. These are the norms of the future, and it's going to happen because you're destroying environments. Animals are going to pick up diseases. Maybe plants are going to pick up diseases. Centipedes are going to pick up diseases. Fishes are going to pick up diseases. There are nuclear plants, whose byproduct is mercury. They get locked in planktons. It is eaten by small fish. Small fish is eaten by big fish. Arsenic is one of the most definitive pollutants. Even if you take organic food, the soil contains arsenic. So there are a lot of things to worry about your system. Virus is just one thing. It is a respiratory disease. Millions will get affected. People will develop immunity. Some will pass away. Some will develop, strong resistance. Some will be left with certain organ damage. That is part and parcel of anything that comes. The question about immunity is not with herbs, but you have to prepare yourself not only for health, but economic, global, technological changes from the Vedic perspective. And this starts with firstly aligning yourself with nature, going more into the sun, going more into the moon. Earlier times we say that women's menses used to come with moon phases. I don't know how many women nowadays even get moonlight onto their system. So your thyroid gland, your glandular system, your hormonal system, all these things, if you start understanding in a very neuronal way, in a very algorithmic way, start working towards this, definitely you can build this coexistence with nature or whatever it is changing. Your kidneys are self-sufficient to throw out carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, heavy metals, but we have made them so overwhelmed by thinking that if you pop in some supplement, okay, this is a kidney supplement, this is a liver supplement, we are taking away that chance from them to developing something. Again, nowadays, if you read researches about COVID, in India, we used to have a BCG vaccine, the tuberculosis vaccine, which only gives protection for 2 years, 4 years. But people who had that vaccinations are not showing much symptoms with the virus. This BCG vaccine, which was thrown away or released or taken away from a lot of countries, like first world countries like Italy, Spain, these people are getting more serious disorders. So sometimes, I earlier said, people who get measles, research has been done, they do not suffer from most of cancers. But people nowadays, because measles is a very bad disease, it can really cause people vaccinate against it. And it is a good thing, because if you don't vaccinate against it, so many people will die with measles. But just because if you get measles or mumps once, you have an immunity against cancer, so you should not vaccinate. Again, it's a very arguable thing. So why I'm telling different things about COVID, because people can look at this virus from a very different point of view. Some people might think it is a economic thing, some people might think it is a fear thing, it is a thing for the industrial world to instill fear and get their way, and everything is right. As far as the dynamics of this virus is considered, are you willing to take a chance to infect your loved ones? Immunity comes less, there is no concept or quotient of immunity. It is not a quantifiable experience. You cannot go to the blood report and say, okay, check my immunity. IgE and IgM is not immunity. So those are factors which get increased when you get allergy. So there is no quotient of immunity. We just cannot say you're eating Chyawanprash so you're immune. Immunity comes when you go to different environments of the world, in filth and in 5-star, and you don't fall sick. It is built over time. You're falling sick again and again, you're doing something and your infections go down, you can say I've built immunity. Because your immune system is at rest. It is not always tickled. It is not always in a fight zone. And that is what Satmya or Rog Pratikar Shakti, the word which is used in Ayurveda, is meant. But a lot of people talk about building immunity, taking Chyawanprash, taking adaptogens like Ashwagandha. There is no quantifiable experience for it. And this is what is killing, because we feel we are taking this herb, we are taking St. John's wort, we are taking foxglove, we are taking anything. You bring up anything. There is no quantifiable. You can still fall sick, because if you don't have a proper diet, if you don't have proper sleep and eat timings, you're creating inflammation into your system, and that is going to cause you problems.
I wanted to ask about what you said about how to deal with this COVID-19 right now. And as we all know, modern medicine says there's no cure, nothing to do. We're just trying to prolong life. And of course, from an Ayurvedic perspective, we must take the measures of dinacharya, and as you said, like waking up times, eating times, how to eat, how to cook, and all that. How do we really, as practitioners, can how can I say it? Come to patients and tell them like it will take time, but you'll have to change your lifestyle, because most of the people are just looking for a quick fix.
So see, there are two methods. People will either come to you in a very infectious stage. That time you have to do what you have to do. And people will come to you asking about how can I prevent it. That is the time our responsibility comes in saying, okay, take this up 2 times, 3 times, that is not going to work. You have to explain them this basic concept of, I'm just making certain parallels in modern medicine because it will be a little bit easy to understand. I don't want to put in any Sanskrit terms here. Is inflammation and being your body in a continuously active stress. Somebody was asking about stress. What is stress? When it comes, your body is always in fright mode. You're always panicking. You're always restless. Even if you just panic about the virus, I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. That first, even if it is one virus which is going to your system, you're going to get it. And there will be people who is not in panic mode, in fright mode. Sympathetic system is totally calm. The organs are relaxed. You might not get the problem because your immune system is not reacting instantaneously. It is getting time to understand what is happening. There is a local immunity and there is a systemic immunity. If you just study the immunological system from a modern point of view, there are certain cells which are released from a systemic point of view, there are certain cells which are released very locally. And that is where we come across qualitative blood. You have visited me, so you know this. I have always given this example that, a woman working in the fields has got less pathological parameters, which if we just show a report, in a forum and say, what do you think of this pathological report? You will say, okay, this is anemic, she has got this problem, but she will be working 20, 30 times better than you and me. You might have the best reports and you might fall sick. So qualitatively, how your entire body is helping you to protect life is important. And why people go straight away into distress zone? Because eventually when their system is not able to support them, what happens at a brain level, it has to sustain life. It doesn't matter if you sleep in bed, you urinate in your bed, you're not able to get up, you're not able to open your eyes. Heart, liver, kidney, brain has to function. So life says that, okay, I have to go into the bare minimum. And that happens, why? Because you have made your body go, you have pushed your body towards it. But when you are immunologically strong, your first line of defense, you get, I'll tell you a very simple example. If you get cold, first your infection will be only here. After that, it will go to your throat. You will get a little bit of irritation into the throat. Maybe after that, you will develop bronchitis or something. It is not going to straight away go into your lungs. But you will see people, the moment certain people get infections, straight away next day, they will have horrible cough. So this and this is not working. I might get bad headache, I might get sneezing, I might get rhinitis, I might get a little bit of flu. But I'll never get sore throat, I'll never get lung infections. But if my immunity is good, that doesn't mean that I might not get the symptoms. But there will be people you will see, the moment something happens, the next day they'll turn up with very bad cough. Why? Because this defense and this defense is not working. The brain has stopped functioning. It is not enticing any immune response. It is not enticing any rog pratikar shakti. Why? Because we are not adapted to inflammation. And today, whatever foods we are eating, we are getting it ready-made. We are helping somebody to prepare it for us. We are not doing anything. We are just going with the concept. I want vegan, I want gluten-free, I want this. We are not understanding the concept. We are not understanding food is not what it seems. It goes inside, some juices have to fall in it, enzymes have to fall in it, it has to be broken down, it has to be converted into a juice, it has to be absorbed, it has to go into a cellular metabolism. Every cell again has to absorb. It doesn't have to create inflammation at cellular level. And we see this, I can give you a lot of examples. You see these diseases of cellulitis, certain cells get inflamed. You do any medication, there is nothing. You just keep on doing dressing, someday gangrene sets if you to cut in the food. Which I just remove salt from the system for 10 days and cellulitis wounds get healed. Why? Because you're reducing inflammation. But if you can't convince the patient to do that, then whatever herbs you give, nothing is going to work. Maybe it will take time. Maybe it will take 10 months, 4 months if the patient is good enough with you. But if you want instantaneous results, the one thing you have to tell them, do this diet or don't come. And that, I think, Ayurveda doctors are not doing. They are not sticking to whatever dietary protocol they want to instill. And I understand it has got economic implications. It has got a lot of other implications. But at least one or two clients or one or two diseases, if you see, okay, these are two diseases, I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to compromise on diet. I'm going to treat the disease only if they follow a particular diet. I think you will get your answers here. And apart from the acute stage, what you have, there are a lot of herbs. Even a simple garlic, simple pepper can give you benefit against COVID. I'm not making tall claims because, it is not that I'm treating patients. Maybe I will in near future. But if they come across, this is the first line of defense, and I always tell them, there are certain lot of benefits in spices you use if you use it at the right time. The same spice you eat in food, you can say I'm using a lot of pepper in food. It's not the same as eating pepper with honey in the morning. Because there you're stimulating one rasa with the brain. There's a very different neuronal pathway. The same pepper you put in your pizza is not the same what you put in the morning. And this is what is the beauty of Ayurveda. That it doesn't distinguish, it doesn't categorize one thing as same. Same thing can have different properties at different time. And that also will change in the way you're creating your system.
I had a question, Sumit-ji. Does Dinacharya affect the way the stress in our life, the way we react to stress in our day-to-day? If we have a situation and if we are on Dinacharya, our reaction is more calmer versus if we are not?
See, the simple answer is that let us say you're addicted to tea and I don't give you tea for 2 days. You're going to throw the chair on my face. So it is affecting your stress level, right? So Dincharya does affect it. When you do it continuously for a period of time, the hormonal levels change. It only depends on how logically you're doing it and how. Dincharya doesn't mean that some people just go on intermittent fasting. 2-3 days I want to lose weight. That is not going to do any stress relieving for you. But if you do it in a very sustained manner, not only the way you prepare food, when you eat food, what time you're getting up, what time you're, sleeping, everything works on the brain, because see, brain is always gathering information. If it takes like, let us say 120 days for RBCs to regenerate, I'm just giving you a very simple example. I'm not putting in the exact time frame. It's just like an example. So let us say we do this. There is a test in modern medicine for diabetes, what is called as glycosylated hemoglobin. So what does that mean? That whatever glucose your body is creating, these RBCs take this glucose and give it to different organs. If those organs are not taking that glucose, it doesn't matter if your blood sugar is 0 or 500. You're not gaining any insights. It is going to be a silent killer. Slowly, your organs are going to go into failure. But tomorrow, if your blood sugar is high, but your glycosylated levels are pretty normal, then your organs will not be affected. It is just a temporary stage where it takes time for your blood to clear the glucose. Why I'm telling you this thing is that because when you do proper diet, eventually you will see over a period of 3 months, you're doing the same thing. Your brain goes into a very budget mode. It knows how much enzymes to secrete at particular time. You're eating at particular time, you're sleeping at particular time. Your body knows when to start the excretion process. Your body knows when to start the elimination process. Your body knows when you will get normal hunger. Normal hunger will be you having prickle-like sensation into your body. If you have got acidic hunger, you will go cranky. So, these things keep on changing. And eventually, when you become peace with your system, stress goes away. You stop reacting to things around you. Sometimes you might shout, you might take stress. The reason why you're into stress might be immaterial. It might be the food which you have not had from last night, because you are not sleeping the last night to solve a problem. And Ayurveda gives much importance to these subtle things. It doesn't say that you have to treat something just because it is there. Of course, if it is a life-threatening thing, treat that first. But find the underlying cause. If you can't find the underlying cause, at least do something where the system is stabilized, the cause will go on its own.
Thank you, Sumitji. That makes so much sense.
So I just wanted to ask, what is your suggestion to start a healthy Vedic lifestyle? And basically, what is your advice on what kind of diet we can follow for general physical and mental well-being? And what can, as a parent, as a family member, what can I do for the family to help everybody have a good, healthy, to have a healthy family? What kind of Vedic principles I can introduce, to have good health around?
Customized dietary things, I personally feel that, it's always better that you consult someone. But just as a general guidelines, which I give everyone, get up before sunrise, maybe 5, eat 2 meals a day, do not eat after sunset. Enhance your cooking methods, with respect to salt and sugar. Use good utensils, which are made up of brass and tin. The list goes long. If I start talking about it, the night won't be enough. But basically what quotient I'm saying is that eat at particular time, sleep on particular time, do not miss up your food timings. It's still better to eat crap at your right time than to eat good food at the wrong time. So don't distinguish between good food and bad food. Food is food. As long as you can digest it, your enzymes are strong, it doesn't matter. So unclutter things. I understand some people follow a school of thought. Some people are vegetarian, they follow a school of thought. Fine. Then just apply the timings and eat the food what you're doing. They might not be suitable for you. They might cause you certain problems. But once you're following a school of thought, that thing should not matter to you. But don't customize things. I give this example to a lot of people. We have this dish. You're from India, so you have this dish called butter chicken in India. So people take out chicken from it. People take out onion from it. People put paneer and they make Jain makhan wala. So that is not a Jain dish. You're customizing something for you because it suits a taste. That's when you start doing it, you're going to get problems. Because if you're following a school of thought, that school of thought has already, made things easy for you so that inflammation doesn't set in. But you have to follow that. You cannot say, okay, I'm following the school of thought, but I do not like the food it offers. You being from India, therefore I'm telling you. So that is where your algorithms lies. If you want a Vedic lifestyle or algorithmic lifestyle, then you have to forget culture food. You have to first do the timings. You have to start preparing food in the right way it is made. It could be meat, it could be wheat, it could be anything. On that clears, then you can customize it to the the religious and fundamental school of thought you follow. The timings will be the same. Of course, certain people follow certain food timings because they are into some spiritual group or spiritual path. Then don't make this accommodations, follow it and just leave whatever comes your way. So once you declutter your mind, you find a particular rhythm to your system and you keep following it. The main thing is persistence. You have to keep following. You should not break your habits. Even if you're going to a party, you say, I'm going to a party, so I'm going to eat late night. You must be able to willing to stay hungry in the parties, eat in your house and go there. That is the kind of change we do not do. And it is a cumulative response. Again, I'm telling you, it is not an instant response. You get a snake bite, it is an instant symptom. Diseases, immunity are cumulative responses. You're slowly but surely changing the dynamics of your system. You're making it inflamed. You're making it a host for a lot of mental and physical diseases. And when it strikes you, you're nowhere to go. You waste a lot of time in chasing medicines and cures and then trying to cure deformities and stress.
You talked about how the world is changing, let's say government and e-commerce and all this thing that people are going more online now. So my question is, how do you think the Ayurvedic practice will change, or how can it benefit from this kind of thing?
See, the answer lies again. Ayurveda has given all the forms of diagnostic which we can ever think of. You can look at a patient, you can hear a patient, and you can diagnose it. As you know, I do a lot of my practice online. I never see half of my patients. So you know that you have been with me. So that is a testament of how strong Ayurvedic diagnostic is. If you just say, I want to see the nadi of everyone, it is not going to happen. You have to evolve. You have to understand that even variations in sounds can give you subtlety to diseases. It happens. You might have seen, if you observe a person who is diseased, his voice will change. You go to a person, if he has got acid, his voice will change. If he has got cough, his voice will change. You have to understand and see what is going on systemically. You have to look at the eyes and you can understand that, if the heart rate is lower. I'm not telling these are very out of the box things. These are very practical things which are happening when modern diagnostic methods started taking root. Reports are going to be there, X-rays are going to be there, MRIs are going to be there. I'm not saying don't use them. But the whole diagnostic system is going to change and you have to evolve. If you restrict yourself with the method you have learned, then nothing is going to change. And as I said, there are Ashtavid Pariksha. We have learned Ayurveda. There are 8 forms. It's nothing, if you can just use them logically, applicably, you can correlate them with what modern diagnostic pathological testing is happening. I think so you're good to go. Rest remains Dincharya. You can always, if you're strong with Dincharya, you can tell anyone around the world to follow the sun. You have to be strict with it. And if you can't find herbs, spices are always available. They're never going to go out of the market. Everybody has access to spices. Use them. And I think so most of the 70 to 80% of diseases can be cured because very few people get diseased. Today we are so aware of our health. The moment we get a cough, we rush to a doctor. We're not even allowing the disease to progress. So you are not seeing real patients. Very rarely you will come across people whom really you will have to think, okay, what should I use in there? And I'm telling you from experience, very, very rarely you will see. Because people have become so panicky, suddenly they've developed some symptom, they'll go to the Google and they'll find out and they'll come to you. Some people will come to you and you must have seen in your practice, my mom has breast cancer, I don't want breast cancer, tell me something. And you will give them something. So this is where this awareness should come if Ayurveda has to flourish, by educating the patients, making them aware that diseases are real, death is real. It is not to prevent death or disease. It is go through this life independent, unstagnated. And that is what Ayurveda offers you. And if you can do that balance with health, see, if today I have no symptoms, I can think of economics. I can think of job. It gives me the strength to go out and do anything. But if I've got a host of fears, I'm not going to step out of my house without supplements or without a number of my doctor. And there lies who is going to be successful and who's not going to be successful.
My question is, not seeing a patient, not seeing someone and talking to them over the phone, what process do you use for determining the hetu for their illness or symptoms?
See, again, as I said, that is a little bit difficult to explain it over here. But I don't even talk to my patients. So sometimes, and it can be a little bit ridiculous, but few people have studied with me. As I said, that most of the people who come, they are unable, they don't have much problem. So in Ayurveda, you have used the word hetu. So I understand you have studied Ayurveda somewhere. So I go by layers of how you read the books. In Ayurveda, if you read Charak, first thing they have said there are two types of disorders, Santarpan and Apatarpan. Nourishment and Apatarpan means, just giving the body what it can digest. If you can just do that, you can just do Apatarpan, you can create a body where cells are getting only that much which they can digest but not store. Most of the diseases go on. Once you reach a point where the cells are in stage of hunger, you just give them nourishment and the diseases go on. So these two things, if you understand, all diseases are gone. 80% of clients who come, they're already self-diagnosed. You don't even have to ask them. You just have to ask them whether they can follow a particular diet and a dincharya. You have to give them 15 days. One mandal is 48 days. You give them half mandal, 21 days. That's what Ayurveda says the body changes. And then disease, you start gaining a lot of insights. If you ask them a lot of symptoms, they'll tell you a lot of symptoms. Your mind starts from, okay, I want to give remedy for each and every symptom. So for me, the process is that do this thing, give yourself 21 days and then tell me what are the symptoms. Of course, that doesn't come from ignorance if you're on some life-saving drugs. Let us say some people who come to me, they might be on life-saving drugs like warfarin, blood pressure medication. Then you require a little bit of, common sense of how these are affecting the doshas. Because if you're giving certain medication from your side, it could be a simple, I generally use only single herbs. So we just use single herb, it is affecting the dosha. So how exactly it is going to do in synergism with this medicine? So if I'm using ethanol, I have to understand on what doshic element it is acting. I cannot say, okay, it is ethanol, so you just stop it. Because when the person is coming to in a disease state, he is stable because of those medicines. So that awareness is there. Sometimes you have to give them, let us say he's a diabetic and he's on insulin. Of course, you have to tell him do the sugar after 12-13 days to do dose adjustment. So these are things, factors which you start eliminating when you do a diet singularly, where your body is, digesting more and creating less toxins, excretion. It is creating the right kind of excretions, and it is not putting load on itself. For example, let us say that if you eat a banana on an empty stomach, your in the traditional medicine they say your blood quality goes down by 10 points. You eat the same banana after food, it increases by 10 points. So those things have been very logically given in Ayurveda, when to use what to combine what. Now if you go and take history of every patient of what he is eating, what culture he comes from, it becomes very difficult to control these things. So you have to first create a diet which is apatarpan, which is going to help everyone. Let us say I give rice water, which is given gruel. So Charak says that you give gruel to everyone, it is going to nourish anyone under the sun. It acts like a saline, it acts like a dextrose into your system. It is going to nourish. So you have the nourishment part ahead, then comes the part where the body starts functioning. So these basic things, when you start working across patients across the world, it gives you similar results. Some people go into Shatkriya Kal, Hetu, Purvarup, Roop, Samprapti, Stan, Sarshay, Vyakti, Bhed. I'm not saying that is wrong. But there, the case taking, the methodology of approach is different. So I can only speak for myself. I cannot comment on other forms of diagnostic approaches. And I hope that answers your question.
So my question is, during these weeks to come, so many people, doctors, nurses, health workers, will be stressed and tested beyond parameters they've witnessed before. And I have been asked to give 3 foods or practices that may help them to sustain themselves. It may be presented to them via a support network for the hospital system. But I'm curious from you, what comes to mind from you? Just 3 foods or 3 things that I can suggest which may be supportive?
It's a tricky question, to be quite frank, because as I said, my whole concept is not the food, but how and when you get it. So, you know, back in India, a lot of doctors are asking me also to find a protocol because I'm stuck here, I'm unable to give anything. But I told them the same thing is that don't create acid into your system. Eat on time and sleep on time. It doesn't matter what you eat. If you don't eat on time, you're going to create acid, you're going to create inflammation. And any inflammation is a host for diseases. It doesn't matter how much you breathe, how much you can do. If you don't eat on time, you're going to create acid. Once that thing is taken care of, even, you know, simple the food, whatever you prepare, which is not creating a lot of difficulty in digesting heavy foods, which is less in sugars, less in salts. I'll rather do away with sugars and salts, very minimal salt. That also for taste, use a lot of lime instead of salt. If those things can be given, which nourishes their system, I was talking about nourishment. Body is always in an active state of hunger. So once it is an active state of hunger, the lymphatics, the capillaries are not inflamed. Once those excretion channels are not inflamed, there is less chances of infection, less chances of falling sick. This is what I have experienced over a period of 20 years, that if you can reduce inflammation into your system, give foods which do not require much of the body resources, you know, food which you eat and you want to go to sleep after 1 hour or 15 minutes, that is not going to help you. You require food which digest, you get little bit of, think, okay, I need to just sit down for a moment. And then suddenly you're awake, you're not getting flatulence, you're not getting this reflux, you're just feeling food. After 4 hours, you're again feeling very hungry. Those kind of foods are definitely going to help in fight any active infections, because when we used to work for TB wards, when we used to work certain times in villages, this was the food we used to give to stop the spread of infections, to stop inflammation. The moment you give food where the body requires to rest, and that is not going to happen because you have to be actively working for a long time, it is going to create acid into the system, it is going to create inflammation. And once you have inflammation, it is host and open to any kind of disorders. So in terms of whatever food patterns you have, whatever vegetables you have, the way you prepare them, the way you put salt in them, avoid sugars. You know, just don't use raw vegetables, cook them in water, use very minimal salt, use salt before cooking, use a lot of lime. You can make some broth, you can make a little bit of rice or something, depending upon whatever it is, which is easy to cook, which hydrates the system like a rice gruel, yet it has got some solids. And those things should be good enough.
You said about taking food at the right time. What's the right time that you suggest for taking food?
See, generally, I myself take 2 times a day. So if you get up at 5 and 6, have your food between 9 to 9:40 like a brunch. Because in today's day, we are not doing any heavy work. We are not going to fields. So you don't require too much food. So eat in that time, finish in 40 minutes, and then eat before sunset. You know, just finish your food before 6 in the evening. Doesn't matter even if you stay in Iceland where the sun sets at 2 in the night. Just follow that pattern. Go to bed by 10. Get up by 5:36. And I think so, if you do that properly, you should be good to go. Completely eliminate sugar from your system. Don't even have it. Use very minimal salt. And just stop making gravies with tomatoes and coconut, which causes acid into the system. These few things, if you follow, maybe Shweta can put more, insights into it and talk with her afterwards. But these are the things, if you follow a little bit, basically over a period of time, use good utensils. Don't use aluminium, don't use stainless steel, all this Teflon coatings, plastic, don't use microwave, cook food, do not eat raw food. I know it will be a little bit difficult, but once you make a habit of it, nothing is impossible. The same habits, if you follow, your children will follow, your family will follow, because if they see change in you, no change can be neglected. Because it changes you from within. It is not only your body, the way you think and you interact with them also changes. So now they pick it up, the kids pick it up. And you will do a service to not only yourself, but your family.
I have a quick question, hopefully quick, easy. What sort of cooking utensils do you recommend then? Pots? Like, I thought of stainless steel as being an ideal means for cooking, but what would you suggest?
Stainless steel is good, but if you go for pure stainless steel, it is very difficult to cook in it because it has got an equal ratio of nickel and cadmium. It is very expensive. And you will require a copper bottom in it to cook in it. So if you can cook in stainless steel, good enough. But if your stainless steel is cooking pretty fast, then maybe It has got more of nickel and less of cadmium. The best vessels what we use is brass vessel with a tin coating, an inert tin coating. It is very little bit difficult here to get in US, but few of the people have done it here. Maybe you can get in touch with someone. So brass or copper vessels which have got an inner coating of tin, virgin tin, is something which you can get it made from certain parts of the world. You can get it from Mexico, you can get it from India. If you go, you can get 2 sets and cook in it. Those are the best because tin is inert, so it just doesn't leach into the system, and when it goes bad, you just have to change the inner coating. Earlier in India, people used to use the same vessels, but because they were a little bit difficult to maintain and aluminium was cheap, they just traded it. Cooking pots and earthen pots are good options for rice and certain things, but you cannot cook everything in it. Iron vessels, I won't recommend cooking much in it, apart from if you're making some dough, bread or rotis, because it is not that good unless and until that iron, it has to be cleaned consistently with lime. I won't recommend using detergents to clean your vessels because they stick and leach into the system. So use soil or use, I don't know what alum is called here. It is a very simple thing to get online, but I don't know what it's called in US. It is potassium aluminium sulfate. It has been used since centuries to purify water. If you can get it online, just dissolve it in water into the vessel and clean it once in a while. So all these things, if you just use minimal utensils, take proper care of it, have a separate vessel for non-vegetarian food, separate for vegetables, separate for rice and separate for milk, and don't interchange these vessels, you should be good to go. I won't recommend using plastics, aluminium, Teflon, glazed vessels, anodized. Those things are good for few things. If you're making occasional certain things where you require a non-stick, that's fine. Those things you can use. Always for eating food, also see to it that if you get bronze vessel, use it. You want to drink, if you're a dairy person, have silver vessels for this. It enhances the system. Again, what kind of milk and also using, that's a very different portion. It's just a thing which you keep on going and you will find it. There are a lot of people who are providing this kind of utensils, providing the kind of milk and vegetables we want in community farms across, but you just have to look out for it.
Savitaji and Dr. Sumit recently did a whole series on COVID and the Vedic principles. And so check out and I also listed it in the Facebook description. So if you lose it or from the chat or don't save it, it's still in the Facebook event. Also, Dr. Sumit spoke a lot about how simple spices can be used as good as herbs. And so he has an amazing handbook on kitchen medicine, and that's also on his website, which I listed over there. It's on nlem.in. With that, did you want to share anything, Dr. Sumit?
There have been pandemics before this. There will be pandemics after this. But each one, a time has come to introspect within themselves of where they are going with their own immunity. Either you want to be with the masses or you want to be with the classes. If you want to be with the classes, you have to start introspecting yourself of what you're going to do with your life. What are your perceptions about health? Are there only pathological brilliance? You want some good blood reports, good supplements in life? Or you want to apply, put yourself out there in nature, try yourself in different trying environments and come out the winner. This is the kind of legacy you're going to pass on to your children, to your near and loved ones, and help them sustain in this upcoming world, which is going to be full of technology. Right now, we are seeing that with this kind of virus which is coming, it is going to change a lot of mentalities in life. The technologies which were first opposed, like 5G, few other things, which we were not so sure about, are steadily going to be accepted now because people will think it is a norm because they don't want to interact with anyone. Online education will be at surge. People who used to oppose vaccination vaccination is going to increase twofold, threefold. If tomorrow people say that if you have this combination of vaccines and it can prevent virus, people are not going to think about it. So it is going to change the way healthcare is going to be towards us. It is going to increase awareness about pseudotherapies. People are going to go for immunity boosters, without checking the fact of how exactly it is going to interact with their life. Over-the-counter supplements, whether it be herbal or chemicals, are going to increase. And this is all going to happen because we are panicking. We don't want to lose out on an opportunity. We don't want to be the one who is getting infected. We don't want who wants to get stagnated in life. And this is going to set a very wrong precedent. I won't say wrong or right, it is for each one to understand it, but it's not going to set a very good precedent for the future to come. We are going to get reliant on other things to keep yourself safe and not increase your own consciousness. I also see a spike in a lot of spiritual practices, a lot of breathing pranayama practices, because people who are going to oppose chemicals for oppose are going to justify their practices. And the whole algorithmic application ways of, for example, I am a student of VEDAS, so I can only talk about it, is going to slowly dissolve, and it is going to get corrupted, it is going to get manipulated with our own fear. And this is what everyone has to think as they approach the future. This pandemic is going to slow down, medicines are going to be found, vaccines may come up, it may take some time. But it is not about that. It is about how we are going to react to whatever is going to come in the future. And that is where I think everybody should introspect and put their mind and study better so that they and their families can benefit.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Your commitment, your dedication to learn and grow and unlearn. And hopefully see you on some upcoming programs. If not, be well.